Hey YouTube, in this video we're going over the mid role, also known as position 2. Alright, so in this role, it takes a lot of mechanics, it takes a lot of matchup knowledge and hero knowledge, and it takes a lot of knowledge of when to gank and when to roam, and you need to know about power runes, and like I said, your lane matchup, and you kind of need to know a lot about Dota to play this, kind of similar to the position 4, so that's why this role is argued as one of the harder roles in Dota. I would argue that position 4 is the hardest and mid is the second hardest. Now, for heroes, these are kind of the general, most of the heroes in mid, and if you're a really skilled player like Topson, you can play Bounty Hunter mid or Pugna or whatever you feel comfortable with. But what makes a mid hero is a hero that has high mobility most of the time, a hero that can farm creep waves fast and shove waves, and a hero that likes to have levels early so they can gank. So like heroes that have a really good level 6 timing, or they have like a really fast item timing that allows them to gank, like Tiny with Blink Dagger, for example. And a lot of mid heroes have high damage, high mobility, and have high potential for outplaying the enemy. All right, now I've compiled a couple different categories for mid laners because a lot of mid laners play different than other mid laners, even though you're still in the 1v1 lane. So we've got Lane Dominator, and I'm going to quickly, briefly go over these just to, I don't want to spend too much time on them. So for Lane Dominator, we have Huskar, Dazzle, SF. These heroes are heroes that have really good laning stages and have high pressure early on in the game. So for example, Huskar is really good against melee heroes. They walk up to last hit. Huskar hits you 7 times with burning spears. You take a ton of damage. Same with Viper. So those heroes like to dominate lane and then kind of snowball from there. We've got greedy mids, heroes like TA Sniper. I could maybe put Caudle in here. They like to farm really fast. They like to farm heavy. They're not as good at winning lane sometimes. And Invoker's in a couple of these because Invoker, depending on your item build and skill build, he plays differently. So you can go Quaswax or Exort, Quas Exort. So greedy mids like to farm it up, get kind of like a second carry. So these fast-paced ganker heroes tend to get their timing and then just gank a lot. So Primal Beast, level 3, level 5, level 6, he can kind of gank. Caudle gets early boots travels and then TPs to different lanes with his ultimate. Tiny, Blink Dagger, Toss, Avalanche. He can do it without Blink Dagger too. His facet's really broken as well. Monkey King, his facet allows him to move around the map fast. Basically, heroes that have early-ish timings can just kind of run around and gank like crazy on mid and win side lanes. These cheese heroes are heroes that run you down, like Brood, Visage, Meepo. Basically, if Brood gets a good game and it's a free Brood game, and she gets off to a good start in lane, it's pretty hard to win. She can kind of just end on her own. Good Brood player. That's why a lot of Smurfs play Brood because a good Brood player can pretty much 1v5. Next category, we have high mobility and high damage. And these heroes, I put all the spirits in here. Puck, Tinker, Windranger. These heroes are very high mobility. They're hard to kill if they use their spells properly, and they have high damage, so it's really hard to ignore them. And they're just good heroes really. But they also have high skill ceiling, so these heroes are typically harder than a lot of other mids. But again, mid is the hardest role, has high mechanics, high outplay potential. And then we've got team fight slash control with Earthshaker, Magnus, Pango, Kunkka. And these heroes tend to just do a lot of disabling, and they're tanky, and they kind of just disrupt team fights and are that mid laner that allows your team to fight like pretty early on. So if you're mid lane or not, if you have a Pango mid and your off laner also strong, it's pretty hard for the enemy to touch you. All right, now there are a few things I want to talk about before we get into the replay. Number one is bottle. So if you don't know, bottle is super important for most mid laners. I'd say about 90% of mid laners buy it. And what it allows you to do is refill your HP and mana with each bottle charge. And when you are in the fountain, it resets your bottle charges. And if you pick up a rune, it gives you 2 bottle charges. And this is very important because runes spawn every 2 minutes. And so this goes into my next topic is runes. So every 2 minutes, starting from minute 0, the bounty runes spawn in the river. And then every 2 minutes after that, a water rune spawns at 2 minutes and 4 minutes. And then after that, starting at 6 minutes, a power rune spawns on either top or bottom every 2 minutes for the rest of the game. And now power runes are very important for mid laners because it allows them to gank or win their lane even harder or even survive in some cases. And so by getting a bottle, this allows you to keep your regen up, and it allows you to store runes so that you can use for up to 90 seconds. You can store the rune so that you can use it when you need it. So if you get a double damage and you're not actually fighting, you don't want to use a double damage. But if you have a bottle, you can save it for when you do actually fight. Now, there are 4 power runes. Actually, first let's talk about water runes. So water runes spawn at 2 minutes and 4 minutes on both sides, and the water rune gives you I think like 70 HP and like 90 mana or something like that, and it allows you to just refill your bottle pretty much. And now power runes, there's four different types. So there's double damage, haste, invisible rune, and invisibility maybe it's what it's called, and illusion rune. And so illusion rune makes two illusions of you and basic dispels you when it's activated. Invis rune makes you invisible when it's activated, and you cannot use attacks or spells in while you're invis, otherwise it will break the invisibility. And double damage gives you like 80% right click damage and some spell amp, I believe. And they actually changed it to amplified damage. And then the one I'm missing is haste, which makes you at max movement speed and you're unable to be slowed. So that's just kind of things you need to know when getting into the mid lane. And one more thing I want to mention is blocking. So what you'll notice is Lena's actually standing in front of her creeps to like make it so that the creeps have to like run around her, or they just are like much slower. And so body blocking the creeps makes it so the creeps will sorry, I'm stuttering a lot. Lena will actually start with her creeps closer to her tower since she's blocking them and the creeps are walking slower. And since SF is not blocking creeps, they will come closer, which makes it safer for Lena to farm under her tower, and SF has to walk up closer. All right, now let's get into the replay. All right, so starting out immediately, we see that he used all of his mana to get first blood on the axe, which if we open the net worth chart, first blood, and he's already 300 gold ahead of Lena. So first blood is really great no matter what hero you're playing. And it's very good if you can. You usually want to give your first blood to the mid laner because that means they will win their lane. And I'd argue that mid is the most important lane in all of Dota because if your mid laner wins, they can gank side lanes and help relieve pressure on the side lanes, or they can dominate their mid lane even harder, take the mid tower, open up the map even more, etc., etc. Mid lane is very important. Whereas if you win bot lane, maybe you like take bot tower and open up the bot side of the map, but then your mid laner is still struggling, so their mid laner is powerful and they can fight early, stuff like that. So I would argue that winning mid lane is the most important thing. So giving first blood to your mid laner is always very nice. So he happens to get first blood against Axe, which is very important. So already he's ahead of Lena in net worth. And another thing is that I want to mention is he has extra regen. So Lena starts with Fairy Fire and SF starts with Fairy Fire. And this is because mid laners like to play super aggressive and they'll dive you under tower or go for crazy kills a lot of the time. And it's super mechanically difficult. So they'll have these Fairy Fires to make crazy outplays. So if they're like 1 HP, they can turn on the guy after using Fairy Fire and Mango, which I'll show you in a little bit. It comes into play. But now getting straight into the replay, we'll notice that most matchups depend on most games, sorry, depend on the matchup. So good mid players, especially pros, will play more aggressive or defensive depending on who their matchup is. And so I'm not 100% sure on matchups myself, but I do believe SF is a little bit slightly better than Lena, especially if Lena steps out of position. SF with triple raises will be able to melt down Lena very quickly. However, if SF is out of position and Lena gets her spells off, she has more range and better stats to harass SF, I believe. But if you know mid lane matchups, that's like 90% of the battle already, I'd say, and the rest comes down to mechanics. And a lot of matchups are heavily favored towards one or the other, and some are just even draws. Like Dragon Knight, for instance, draws a lot of his lanes, and that's just the nature of the hero. Same with the Caudle, Keeper of the Light. But um, so going into it, I would look up online or maybe just like uh, after you play a ton of games, you'll have not the knowledge of knowing matchups. So you typically don't want to get your hero counterpicked, or you don't want to play into a hero that's an unplayable matchup because it just makes laning stage really hard, which then, like I said earlier, further leads to your side lanes getting collapsed upon and not enough space, and you have to farm, and you're basically AFK. Anyways, with all that ranting aside, let's go into the laning stage. One more thing I want to mention is this is Quinn, and he's ranked 12 in the world, which is very impressive. So he's one of the best players to ever do it. So if we just watch how he plays laning stage, he spends a lot of time. He goes for as many last hits as possible, and then he also uses his spells when he can on Lena. Anytime he sees an opportunity to use his spells on Lena, he will. So actually, let's go back a little bit more. So we'll see. He walks up, he raises the creeps, so since he had an early first blood, he actually had a really early bottle, which allows him to spam more of his spells and resources. So he's playing a lot more aggressive on Lena here. He's like walking up really far. He's letting Lena hit him a lot because he knows he has bottle. And what we're going to see here is this is what I was talking about earlier, where he does this crazy outplay because he has a fairy fire. And this is what a lot of mids will tend to opt for. So Lena's hitting him. This looks really bad for SF, right? Lena's like a couple hits away from killing him. And I believe she has. Oh, okay, she already used her spells. And since he knows, so another big thing, guys, I'm like I have like ADHD. I swear it sounds like it, but I don't actually. So he's actually keeping track of when Lena uses her spells. This is super important because if you know Lena has no spells, he can use his spells and man up to her a little bit because her damage output is going to be way less. So we watching this play is I'll rewind it for the 15th time. So he's hitting Lena and he knows her spells are on cooldown. So he goes for this Fairy Fire Mango play and double raises it, almost kills her. It was insane. She did have her own Fairy Fire, but I don't think he would have been able to. Like, I'm pretty sure Lena knew kind of that double raise wouldn't kill him, or he just assumed it wouldn't, so he didn't press it for himself. And this just allows him to keep her low. And again, oh, sorry, I'm looking at Lena. He has the early bottle, so this allows him to keep his regen up. So now if you look, Lena's like really low and he's just half HP because he has this bottle. So he's able to keep playing the lane aggressively. And this is all matchup knowledge, and he knows like if Lena uses his spells, he's going to be able to play aggressive. He knows if Lena walks too far out of position, he's going to be able to be aggressive. So he kind of tends to use this knowledge to bully her off the creep wave. And this is why I think mid is the hardest role, or arguably one of the hardest roles, because you need to know a lot of like minute details about the laning stage in your lane matchup. Because if you don't, then the enemy will just kind of run you down. So, for example, if you're playing like Pango versus Huskar, you as a Pango leader can never walk up to Huskar or you'll be beaten down. So it makes you play the lane in a completely different way than you would if you didn't know that information. So that's why I think mid is the hardest role, but it also can be the most fun and rewarding role because, like I said, mid is kind of the most important role at winning lane because if they do, they can kind of take over the game and pretty much solo win. So he's just using his raises to bully Lina off the lane, and then the water rune spawns, so he's going to walk over, grab the water rune with his bottle. Lina actually doesn't go for it for some reason. You want to know why, actually? I know why. Oh, what? That's so weird. I was going to say he doesn't have bottle yet, but he does. Maybe he thought SF would catch up and kill him. Anyways, Lina doesn't go for the bottle. Again, he's spending a lot of time denying creeps as well, as much as he can. He's got 4 denies. Lena has 1, 13 last hits. You definitely want to be very good at CS, which stands for creep score. You would definitely want to be good at last hitting so that you can, because last hitting is very important for mid laners. The more last hits you get, the more gold, the more levels, the faster you get your level ahead of the enemy mid laner, the more damage and possibility of solo killing them you have. So that's why mid laners are super efficient when it comes to last hitting and getting denies and trading their HP and using spells properly. So mid is definitely one of the most mechanically difficult roles. So I kind of want to just like go fast forward a lot here. He's just hitting creeps basically. Notice how he's standing like up on the high ground. So whenever Lena walks up, he presses raise on her, and she just kind of has to back up a little bit. Um, and he's still getting a ton of CS. He's like not missing any last hits pretty much, which is important as a mid laner. He gets both runes. Lena's way too scared to walk up to him. He's a higher level than her. She's low mana. She does buy raindrops to protect her. But again, he's just playing this lane dominator hero SF, and he's just kind of stomping the lane. Lena TP's out right in front of him because she has raindrops. It was kind of a risky TP, but anyways, he's just gonna play super aggressive. He's gonna walk over, get the bottle charge, keeps farming. He grabs. All right, so it's very important to check the runes at 6 minutes. And what you'll notice here is his supports come by as well, and this allows him to just secure his rune so that he has an extra advantage over the Lena, so he can kill her. Or if he was a more active ganking style hero, like a primal beast, for example, he would be able to take this rune and maybe go bottom and kill whoever's bottom, right? But he's SF, slow hero, no real disables. He walks up, pushes the wave. He's going to apply pressure on the tower. He knows his supports are here, so what he's actually going to do is he's going to dive them with his supports. He's going to dive Lina. With his double damage here, he's able to walk up. He actually doesn't use his double damage with just, this guy's so insane at the game, he just knows he doesn't need double damage to kill her. So he doesn't pop it, pops it, saves it for something else later on. Sadly, his Rubik goes down, but great ulti, and he actually ends up killing Axe as well. So just by him being a higher level and stomping the Lina, he gets ruined. He makes all this space, which basically this allows his Enigma to have less pressure and his CK to have less pressure. So 2 of his cores are free farming. Meanwhile, he's killing Lina. His supports are helping him dive. The tower's getting low. This is forcing all this pressure to come by. Their mid laner dies. Their offlaner comes to help. He dies, and all they lose is their Rubik 5, who doesn't matter in the grand scheme of things. So he gets 3 kills. Well, actually, hold on. He gets 2 kills. Sorry, Rubik got the axe kill. But he makes all this pressure and applies all this space. Oh, sorry, I'm wrong. I'm watching the wrong guy. My bad. But anyways, if you know what I mean by that, he just made a ton of space and he lived while doing it. So this just basically this is how you get really farmed as a mid laner. And another thing I want to mention is you are second on the farm priority list, and you're very important to have a game. So you don't want to be sacrificing your game to make space. So don't be feeding. Prioritize your own life pretty highly. So I'm an offlane player, and I kind of should do this as well. Honestly, all the cores should prioritize their own lives, but I tend to feed as an offlaner, and it makes me less farmed. And I would say it's very bad, especially as a mid laner if you're underfarmed, because mid is kind of the second carry role at times, and especially if you're playing a hero like SF. So he's looking for some ganks, just farming it up. He's just, farming it up, going back to base, gets some mana regen, TP's mid, comes with his supports, doing a lot. He gets a kill on Lich, threatens Lina. Again, they have to keep a ton of heroes here. He actually sees Axe farming stacks, so what he's going to do is he's going to walk over. I can't believe. Does he kill him? Wow, that's a crazy kill. Basically, he's just being super aggressive because he stomped his lane and he knows he's higher level and stronger than Lina. So Lina can't do much to help, and he just basically, I don't know if he called for this or if, since it's a high ranked game, his supports just know these things, but him and his supports come and they just apply so much pressure. They took mid tower, they're killing the offlaner in the jungle. He's taking camps away from them, basically limiting the map a lot. So they kind of don't have this triangle to work for anymore, and Axe kind of has no game anymore because regardless of what happened top, SF killed him early game mid. SF killed him again while he's farming ancients. So Axe's game is now ruined, all because Lina lost her lane. And I'm not blaming Lina or saying she's a bad player or anything, but this goes to show why winning your lane is so important as a mid laner. And this guy's again rank 12. He's insanely good at Dota. He knows his heroes. He knows the matchups. He knows everything about it. So again, he's checking the runes. Every time runes spawn at every 2 minutes, he checks, gets them. They go for another kill on Lina. Lina sadly lives here. Lina dies.
What?
It's because he ults. But this is basically the game plan of a mid laner. You just want to apply pressure in the ways you can and win your lane. And it's pretty hard, but if you do it, it's very rewarding. All right, so I've got one more replay here to show, and so this one is a Primal Beast versus Techies mid. It's a little bit weird that there's a Techies, but what if you notice what he's doing here is he's using his spell to just nuke the wave down as fast as possible. And so what this allows you to do is you can push the wave as fast as possible, and then the creeps will hit the tower. You apply pressure and damage to the tower, and you force someone to respond. So now, since the enemy Techies mid, I don't know why he's playing Techies mid, I'll be honest. Since the enemy Techies mid was in the jungle and the creeps were on the tower, he was forced to TP back here, which now the Primal knows, oh, my enemy mid laner has no TP, so it frees him up to do more. So he's actually gonna go for a kill on him. Does he get this? No, he does not get it. He knows his limits. He's tanking tower a lot. This is just the benefits of playing Primal Beast, tanky hero. He's going to drag the creeps, farm it fast. He's going to use Trample again, if you'll notice. He will use Trample to clear creep waves quickly. Now there's a catapult here. He kills the catapult. Now what does he do? He goes up here, looks for the rune, finds a support going on other support, saves him, being active. Stacks a camp, farms mid. Notice how he's constantly using his spells to just shove mid down. And now by shoving mid, he doesn't have to defend his tower, and he forces someone else to defend the mid tower, because if they don't, creeps will apply damage and all that. So now what this does is it frees him up to leave lane. So what he does is he actually leaves lane. He doesn't have a power rune or anything, but he's playing Primal Beast, ganking hero, and he goes top, kills their off laner, and just like that, Beast is suffering. I will show the net worth last hits, and Techies has a lot, but he's been farming more jungle than Primal. If we go to net worth, we can see Primal is 300 gold ahead of Techies, so kind of drawing the lane out, not like super anything crazy, but now he just farms jungle, again, prioritizing his own farm and game. He's not, that doesn't mean never leave your lane. Some heroes don't like to do that. Again, just play to your hero's strengths and weaknesses, and try to think about your win conditions and how you win the game. If you win the game by ganking top 3 times in a row and shutting down the Beast, that's how you win the game. And what he does here is Beast dives his carry, so he'll TP top. He knows he can kill Beast. He actually goes for a second kill here. Doesn't quite get it. Stays top. He actually stays even longer. He notices, hey, this Naturus isn't allowed to be here. I'm really strong right now. My hero is allowed to basically kill all of them. He keeps going. He actually finds 3 kills top because of his map knowledge and awareness. And basically, I don't know if he told his supports to do this, or they just did it, but Rubik stayed mid and got all the XP while he was ganking. And this is really good because it allows Rubik to get level 6, it allows Rubik to get some last hits and some gold, because the supports are typically poor, and he went top, made a ton of space, helped his carry stabilize lane, and just like that, huge impact coming out. His support does die, however, he goes mid, gets another kill. So this is just an example of you playing to your strengths and weaknesses of different heroes, and these are obviously pro players, but he was able to basically kind of solo win this game by just getting really strong. If we'll like go forward later on, he's top net worth. Wow, actually, I'll be honest, I sound like an idiot because his team is getting stomped. I mean, he's 13 and 5, so it's not really his fault. But we'll show he actually dies here top. But let's show in the end. So his team actually manages to come back, but I actually look like a major idiot right now because I said that he was going to basically solo carry his team, which he actually did in essence. He has 18 kills. I mean, let's look at the scoreboard. He has 18 kills, and he's just playing from the mid lane. He gets super fat on his lane alone. He actually helps and tries to save his teammates' side lanes, but maybe they fed or they just had really bad times or whatever. For whatever reason, they didn't go so well, but he remained able to keep farming. It's 28 minutes. He has an insane inventory. He's super tanky. He can't die, and this is just how you play your hero. But like I said, he basically carried this game because he played for his own game even. He didn't even play for his teammates at that point because he probably just realized, hey, these guys aren't really, they're having a rough time. I'm going to play for my own farm. I'm going to get super fat. And then by the time, I'm just like still forcing fights and killing everyone while having all this farm, you guys can catch up as well. Eventually, Tusk kicks him out. He's kind of just a tanky guy. This is just how his hero plays. Like if you're playing a hero like Sniper, you don't really want to run in all the time. But since he's playing this hero, he's able to just farm it up. Walks mid. He doesn't care. He gets gone on. Pops BKB. Does all this. Still going on him. He just doesn't care. Team's coming to help him out. Look at this. He's just diving, zoning out supports. This is just what happens when you're playing a core and you get super farmed. This can happen in offlane, safe lane, mid. It's typically easiest in pub matches to do this as a mid laner because you just win your lane 1v1 and snowball really hard. And you can just carry so hard in this role. It's insane. That's why a lot of Smurfs play mid, Tinker, Brood, Meepo, stuff like that. So all in all, you can see he pretty much went even with his lane. He was really farmed at minute 10. He ended up just he's top net worth pretty much the entire game, and he just ends up with 27k net worth minute 33. It's ridiculous. 855 GPM, and he's the most active hero on his team. So this just goes to show you don't have to be carry to carry your games. You don't have to AFK farm to carry your games. You can be very active as long as you're playing well and not feeding or anything like that. But yeah, I want to thank everyone for watching. I know I kind of rambled a lot in this video, but again, I'm not a mid player, so if there's anything I missed or anything I just gave out misinformation, feel free to correct me, but I feel like I had a pretty decent understanding of the mid lane. So all in all, gank when you can, play for your own game, try to make space if possible, and play with your supports to relieve pressure on side lanes, or just get really farmed yourself and just carry the game all in all. But it does, yeah, again, it depends on what your matchups are and what your other heroes are. If your carry's like some Underlord or something, maybe you have to be the win condition as a mid laner, but anyways, thanks everybody for watching. I hope you have a great day. I hope you go out there and try mid lane, even though it's a really hard role and I hate it, but I'm not saying you should hate it. I'm saying you should love it because you should love Dota because I love Dota. Anyways, thanks for watching, guys. Have a good day. Have a nice night and win some MMR.